welcome back for a brand new TIFF 2019 interview. Very excited about this one. It's for a documentary called There's Something in the Water. I've got the team behind the film right here. I have a ton of questions for you guys. We have limited time, jumping right into it. Ingrid, I want to know, what's it like having someone approach you that wants to adapt your book into a movie? Because does anything go through your head where you're like, okay, this sounds like a good idea, but only if you respect like this, and this, and do these things justice?
Well, I mean, this is amazing, and I'm still shocked by it all. It certainly wasn't planned. I wrote the book starting in 2016, and I did it because I was passionate about the topic. Didn't think any of this would happen. So it has been incredibly exciting to have this platform and to have Elliot Page and Nova Scotian bring this to the masses, and Daniel, the work he did getting this together so quickly for TIFF has been incredible. So it's very, very exciting.
I was wondering if one of you could take a quick moment to just give a definition of environmental racism for anyone who's watching out there who hasn't seen your movie and might not know what that super important topic is.
It's the disproportionate siting or location of toxic industries in communities of color, indigenous communities, and the working poor. So it's the notion that communities that are more invisible, perhaps in many ways less powerful, lacking in access to economic and political resources, there's a tendency to place industries in their communities because they can't fight back or they're voiceless in certain ways. So that's the typical definition of environmental racism.
So I know this may sound like a silly question because I do know that there are abundance of reasons out there why someone can't do this. But for anyone who hears something about like these types of situations and their knee-jerk response is, well, why don't you just move? What would you say to those people?
Well, you have a good answer. People ask you that. Yeah?
Yes, they have said that to me. Why don't they just move? I've had students say that to me, stand up in a lecture hall and say why don't they just move? But they don't want to move because these are their homes and their communities. So the issue is not about whether or not they should move, but questioning and kind of interrogating why government tends to place industries in their area as opposed to other areas. So once again, people have to remember that these are communities, historic communities, in many cases, who have been there all their lives. They have families there. They love where they live. There are various problems that they have, one being environmental racism, but why should they move?
They shouldn't.
Yeah.
From the filmmaking perspective here, two questions that have been on my mind. What is it like trying to figure out when to incorporate yourselves into the piece? There was just one particular moment where I think, what was the line? Oh, someone asks, how would you cope with this? And I think in my mind, I automatically responded to the answer, but neither of you did. So I'm just curious, what is it like figuring out when to, continue that conversation and when to leave it to the subject?
We made a very conscious choice. I think it's what we focused on mostly as we were making it, and then particularly made the decision in the edit and this is what we wanted the whole time. We wanted the film really, truly just to be an opportunity for these women to speak, to just be heard, to say exactly what they wanted to say and exactly how this has impacted their lives and their communities' lives. And so it was about, that's really how we wanted to structure the film and structure it stylistically. So, you have this experience of going on this journey or seeing someone you recognize, go home and take you on this, this journey around three towns in this province. But ultimately, we wanted to have it really just be about the women and the people in the film.
Mm-hmm. What about the running time of the movie? They actually, in the interview before us, happened to have been talking about a movie that was exceptionally long. And I know the second we see, a 70-minute runtime versus a 2.5-hour runtime, you immediately make assumptions about a movie. So why was, I think it's 70 plus a little bit, why was that the proper amount of time to convey these points?
I don't know I guess I don't know what the assumption is about the film if it's 70 minutes. I think short and sweet to the point is how much we chose, the way we selected what would happen in the film in the end was it just became really clear that the women were leading in their communities and the women had been fighting for so long. They'd been speaking about these issues so powerfully already that let's just bring that to the platform. Let's bring it to the table. And so we just had we had these 3 towns and these 3 stories that we thought told told our thesis and our idea the most powerfully, and that's what we chose. And we just, whatever amount of time it took to get the story across and let the women really speak is the time that it ended up being. I mean, for us, I feel very confident in the 71 minutes that we let everyone be heard, that we get our point across pretty clearly, and that there's a journey in hand that has impact and has an arc to it. So.
Without turning this into a review, I agree with exactly how you described it. Ellen, I loved watching you kind of grow behind the lens also. So after this experience, having your first feature debut under your belt as a director, is getting behind the camera something you want to do more? Is a narrative feature as a director in your future?
Being behind the camera for sure more. I'd love to continue to direct and make documentaries. I don't really have as much interest in doing something narrative fiction. I mostly watch and pretty much only read nonfiction. That tends to be where, and I love making Gaycation with Ian, which we plan to continue to do. So I hope to continue to do this, and I hope to continue to collaborate with what's your name again? I'm hoping I can always continue to collaborate with Ian, because I really get so much joy and fulfillment working with him.
What is it about, for each of you, what is it about the other one that says to you, this is a special, because it's very unique to find that special collaborator that you never want to leave, that maybe brings something out of you that you might not have expected. So what is it about each of you that make you say, that is the person?
I mean, I think that Ellen has a great passion for things, and very specific things. So when Ellen speaks about something over and over again and feels very fired up about it, I start, okay, if she's that fired up about it, I better get behind it. So there's something that I just feel very educated by her passions. Sometimes I didn't know that much about environmental racism in terms of the terms and how it's impacting areas. So Ellen continued to talk to me about it, and I think that got me fired up. And now I sit on the other end, totally, very educated, very aware of the issues and empowered to speak about it myself. And there's that in our collaboration, and I just think that we just have different ways of looking at the world and different ways of dissecting things. And Ellen's maybe more politically driven, and in some ways that I'm not. And I think a good friendship and a great partnership is one that is creatively collaborative, but also challenging and educational. Yeah.
And then you want to add to that?
I mean, a lot of similar things, and I think it has so much to do with honesty. I feel like Ian is someone who's incredibly honest and sincere, and I think to be able to have that back and forth, and to be able to have the difficult conversations, and to be able to grow together, and to not be afraid to do that, and to be close with someone who has that level of compassion and kindness. It really creates, I think, a wonderful foundation for being able to work on projects like this.
Absolutely. One question that I had for you specifically, because I asked this in a lot of interviews. It's an important question to me, and you are on my list for this answer. Who is someone in the film industry that you think is changing it for the better?
Oh goodness. Good. I mean, there's so many people who are. I think of someone like Ava DuVernay when I think of someone who's creating not only incredible work, but creating access and for so many people, and I'm could go on and on, but yeah, that's what immediately popped into my head. Yeah.
And just to wrap this up here, given the subject matter we're talking about right now, for somebody out there that is inspired and wants to do something to make a difference right now, what would you suggest they go out and do today?
I would say that they should connect with communities. They should connect with communities that are impacted by this issue. Form authentic, organic relationships with these communities. Allow these communities to drive the projects, to be in the driver's seat. But the first step is always to connect with the people most impacted, and to ask them what they think they should do to help. So always being driven by the people impacted.
Thank you guys so much for your time today. There's something in the water. Do keep an eye out for it. Also, before we say goodbye, a huge thanks to our sponsors, Nordstrom Canada, for making these interviews happen. Like and share this video, and stay tuned for more coverage from TIFF 2019.